Welcome back to Industry Conversation. My guest today is the founder and CEO of Ideas Origin Media, Mr. Israel Obatunde. Glad to have you join us on the program, sir.
Glad to have you around.
All right, great. So let's start with your assessment of the integrated marketing communications, generally. What is your assessment in recent times?
I think there have been a lot of improvement. The IMC space has been overwhelmingly a bit saturated. Yeah, saturated. But the good thing is the introduction of a couple of things like the rise in use of technology and of course collaborations and partnerships is making things a lot better.
Okay.
Most times before now we had a bit of bricks and walls here and there.
Okay.
But because of our challenges, even as a nation, the economic realities has allowed, made everyone, especially professionals and practitioners, to invent creative ways to practice better. Introducing flexibility, introducing adaptability, because if you don't adapt in this age and time, extinction is just at the door.
Okay, great. So let's talk about the Nigeria creative industry now, sort of narrow it down a bit. Now, what would you say is, evaluation of that segment of the IMC?
The advertising space in Nigeria is still developing. It is a bitter reality compared to a couple of practices or industries outside Nigeria. As professionals, we are exposed to a lot of tools, a lot of opportunities outside, but as an industry, there's still a lot to come to do, and it all goes back again to collaboration and partnership. If the space is going to grow more than what we can see now, it goes back to how we are able to introduce or allow ourselves to be introduced to the better ways of practicing. Because from the word integrated, it means how can we easily solve problems from one end to the other without limiting ourselves to a particular space. If we are just focusing too much on the traditional means of doing things, then we'll keep getting the same result. If we are overwhelmingly focusing on the digital means of solving things, or we now decide to say everything must be led by influential marketing, then of course we're also going to create more problems. But the easier we learn and do things better by going through all these processes without giving too much priority to one or the other, but the solution we want to achieve, then the better we'll get. And I think over time we are beginning to realize that as an industry.
Oh, great. Well, that was well said. So let's talk about, still talking about the creative, industry now. How well would you say Nigeria creative agencies, how well are they doing in terms of practice and brand management?
That's a huge topic because I can't speak for everyone. I can't probably speak for myself and my agency. One of the things we've been able to take care on time is bureaucracy. As much as bureaucracy is good, it can also affect top-notch creativity and innovation. Because if there are so many blocks in terms of chains of command and report of who you report to, a junior that is so fantastic in thinking might not be able to find the opportunity one day to eventually become the best in the industry. So some of the things we are able to learn fast is to ensure that brand management is part and parcel of everything we do. Brand management is more like client management. A creative should be able to understand and manage clients, whether the brand management people are there or not. And that is one of the success that I am also enjoying. I started my career as a creative person. Today I'm running a business successfully by the grace of God. It tells how much I've been able to, innovate and evolve. And it's because some people gave me the opportunity to. While I was growing, I learned the financial part of this business. I learned the brand management part of this business. I learned almost every part of it, the strategic part of it. So as a result, I was able to offer holistic service as a person, as a brand, and now as an agency. So brand management is key and shouldn't be limited to the people called brand managers. We should all be brand managers. And it is how open we get to be. Emotional intelligence is very, very critical in brand management. If you don't have the ability to let go of ideas, like you're holding it to chest, you're holding everything, it should be your ways, you might not survive. So it's critical for us to adapt as a creative agency into good management.
Now, in light of all those challenges or your assessment, how would you say Nigerian professionals in the advertising market, how are they positioned or how would you rate them alongside their counterparts in other parts of the globe?
Another big question. uh, to be honest, to be fair, we have the best of brains.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, trust me. I've worked with a couple of, I mean, been practicing this for the past 10 to 15 years.
Mm.
Yeah, I've worked with great minds globally and outside this country. However, I've also seen fantastic people in this business. Um, I think limitations is platform. The limitations is access to tools and the right information. But in terms of manpower, in terms of labor, in terms of people who are willing and really giving in the best, we have good minds here. And also it's just like, I can put it as a scenario of, if you move a couple of Nigerians, imagine when some Nigerians leave this place and travel out of the country, you
Okay.
see how fly they go in the health sector, in the engineering sector. You see how fantastic they grow, because they get there and they see what they have actually been sleeping for 3 days to do. There's one tool that can do it for them. There's a machine that can do it for them. So they work better because they've actually been doing the dry run without the machine. So now they have a two-way
Have a
machine
leverage they can.
that can help them. So you see them fly so high, right? So it's a thing of, we have great minds here. We have, some of us, we know what we had to do to get
Okay.
here with no help at all, and we are here. So and I know, if some of the people I also know have access to the right things, they will even fly better. So we have good minds. It's just pushing ourselves more. We also need that pushing. Actually, we need that pushing. We need discipline, because I'll be fair, sometimes when you deal with counterparts outside the country, you see how disciplined they are, time management, commitment to doing things, and they get it done. And sometimes if you have to engage people here, you literally have to be running after them.
This, I guess, is the African time, or
Discipline.
well, discipline. That was what I said.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about technology. Now, it's no doubt that there are a myriad of challenges in the sector, in the industry. Now, how well do you think professionals in the industry are leveraging technology in the execution of projects?
Technology is expensive, right? As much as it's two ways. I'll call it two-edged swords. We have instances where people really willing want to make use of technology and there is no access to it, and we have instances where they don't even want to because it's expensive to do.
There's a tight budget.
Exactly. So if you want to propose some ideas to your clients, and you are going to be running to 500 million, and guess what? The client has not even made a quarter of that in the year. You wouldn't expect them to put or invest their money into it. So it goes back again to, what can we do with what we have?
Okay.
So that is why, an industry, to be a very much more better cause, if there is a collaborative effort to investing into technology, whatsoever we are having today, in the likes of the use of good phones like your Apple, like good laptops and the like, some people decided to invest into it and make it affordable and reachable for others. So it goes back to a sense of owning up to make things affordable and easy for. There are some foundations here and in the US, for example, that all they take care of is just to give access for people to have the best of technology. How many of that do we have in Africa?
Okay.
Talk less of Nigeria, you know, not even when businesses are living global.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about emerging trends. Last year, we know that there were, lots of new trends. Now, what do we expect to see this year? And, how can creatives or how are creatives in the industry embracing this trend, for, to foster better creativity?
Last year we had a couple of trends. I mean, if I would go to what we had with the AI, it's still ongoing trend,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's getting better. I mean, I don't know if you've heard about Sora.
Mm.
Sora is a new platform where you can actually type words and it produces a movie for you. Yeah, a
Wow.
video footage is going to produce. It was scary, when Tyler Perry reviewed it. It was like, come on, this is this is something else. And a couple of guys that
Oh, wow.
revised it. So we are still trying to say. Some people are still feeling if AI, if mid journeys and the likes will not take the job of couple of graphics and art director guys. But now we have a movie producing AI platform. That says a lot about
Okay.
what is coming.
Hmm.
That says a lot. Now we have was Apple releasing um the what's it called, I want to remember, the VAR thing,
Mm-hmm.
where you can actually operate a lot of things without necessarily touching your phone. So it says a lot about emerging technology. There are people that are inventing and reinventing. So the best way to approach this is never to stay on the spot. You've got to continue to learn more. You've got to continue to be ready to adapt more. So a couple of technologies are coming in, even in the research space, there are new ways of doing things right now in terms of making things faster. I have a couple of friends that, I mean, I won't mention the country, that so much mention how everything is so infused. Unlike here in Africa or Nigeria, if you need to do research, you have to be going from street to street. Everything is really, really so technologically driven that if you need any form of research done in any part of the state in that country, you just need to type it in the software and responses will start flowing.
Hmm.
So better ways are going to become, emerging trends are going to be happening in terms of also how we approach campaigns, how we do things, how we talk online. There are better ways. I mean, earlier on this year, we had no grief for anybody.
I think it's still
And
ongoing.
it's still on,
It's
you
still
know.
ongoing.
And there was a lot of ways that influenced our communication, our
Yes.
approach to things, the humor side of us. You can never remove that. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things are still unveiling, and look at how people adapted to the technology realities. I mean, somebody I saw online a couple of weeks ago said, no matter no matter how you feel in Nigeria, just get sub
Yes,
and go
have
online,
data.
just have
Your
data,
problems will go away.
and go online. You laugh and laugh and laugh. So
Mm.
the question is, how do we want to make use of all of this
Mm.
to solve problems? you know, to approach briefs from how we used to do it, because you can never do it how we used to do it again.
Mm.
And that is the reality of what we are able, I've been asked a lot of times, how we are able to grow fast, how we're able to get this kind of visibility, how we are able to, somehow challenge the status quo. And it's just simple. There is somebody crying somewhere that his product is not being sold. There's somebody not happy that his services are not being offered, I mean, being asked for, because somebody is doing it the same way they've been doing it for them for the past years. And we are just like, we just want to make a difference. We just want to do things differently. We say, you know what, just try this, just try this. And you get solutions, and we are stuck to you guys. We like your vibe, we like your energy, we like. So it goes back to the reality is on ground. How do you want to use it? to solve the client's problem, to solve the brand's problem. And from what we have seen so far, trends is emerging and will continue to emerge, but it must not catch us on guard.
Yeah, I agree. It must not catch us on guard at
Yeah.
all. Okay, so we also know that talking about trends, I know that the social media scene in Nigeria, it's undergoing, continual changes, and we see influencer marketing as part of the trends we saw last year, and I believe it's still ongoing. Now, do you think that influencer marketing plays an increasingly pivotal role, in brand strategies this year?
Yeah, so I would say it is to an extent, because to sell, you need trust
Okay.
and credibility. And getting someone that has used, not that is going to sell it. We have people that are ambassadors of certain mobile phones, and we know
That they don't use this
they
phones.
won't use that phone.
Okay.
We all know. So we are not talking about using them to basically just say buy me, but I've tested, I've used. We can see the replica of that product in them, on or in their lifestyle, in their day-to-day activities. So is going to be a, I mean, I don't think it's something we can eradicate, because we need, the brand need somebody to tell the other person that I have tested this and I've trusted this, you
Okay.
can actually use that as well. So it's going to probably increase. Yeah, and I think we need more of it. We need more of it. If somebody wants to sell to you and is saying I've used this and I'm doing well with it, of course the right thing for you to do is pick it up. So it's going to be increasing over time. And because also um, referral is more stronger than testing, just like experience is the best teacher sometimes, like they say, is always good when you have an influencer, that can tell your story better. But that does not mean that the job stops with the influencer. That does not also mean you can't carry the job or you can't do the job without the influencer. It is about understanding how best to use the person and how best not to use the person. But is it going to be increasing over time? Yes, definitely. It is going to be.
Okay, great. So let's talk about Nigeria. We know that Nigeria is a multicultural entity. Now, how are creatives in the industry, how are they probing, the issue of confluence culture and its impact on the advertising industry?
Conflict culture, I think, is a positive impact.
Okay.
Because um, from where I am or where I come from, if you tell me my story or you sell to me like where I come from, I will listen to you. And of course, you also will do the same. So it's about telling it right. Um, it took a while. Now we have a new movie that is going to be released by Disney. I won't mention the name because this is not an advertiser.
Okay.
Yeah, a new movie by Disney that is telling an African story in an African way. That's something great. Those days, way back, we had a Moana that told the more like the Cuba. I don't want to mention maybe it's Cuba or not. The story of that tribe in a very relatable way. So when we use confluence culture and all this very well effectively, it is supposed to give us better results. So the impact of it, I don't necessarily think is negative. I think is how we use it to achieve what we need to do. Because the best way to tell a story to any other person is telling it by who they are and where they come from. Background is very critical.
Telling the story by who they are and where they come from. So,
Yeah.
on the issue of diversity and inclusion, we know that that is also another, critical part of, storytelling. Now, how can IMC professionals or practitioners, how can they take the lead on this issue, which is diversity and inclusion? How can they take the lead on that issue, to foster a culture of diversity and inclusion?
I will use us as an example of how we can.
That's
I
fine.
mean, we have strong women that are leading fantastically well,
Wow.
great departments in the business.
Mm.
Our business director is a lady. Our brand managers, we have two of them, fantastic women that are ladies.
Mm.
Head of HR, a lady. You understand? I believe in um, inclusion very well. And sometimes when you give a woman something to do, the approach sometimes might be more than how a man would do it. However, we men also we do things very well in our own way. So we have a unique uniqueness and capacity. So it depends on how we use it. And in terms of religion, I mean, we have sometimes prayers being led there by the our Christians, and also sometimes by the Muslims. We allow you to be yourself because that is how creativity can flourish.
Mm.
Yeah, creativity can only flow when people are themselves. But that does not mean there is no discipline. That does not mean there is no sense of determination and, of. Diligence. You know, and in terms of diversity, a lot.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Okay, so we spoke briefly about technology earlier.
Mm.
Now, I wanted to ask, do you think, or what would you say about agencies' spend on technology? Now, is it justifiable? Like, is it justified or is it required? Should they cut down on what agencies spend on technology?
I think it goes back to objectives,
Okay.
goals and objectives.
Okay.
If you have set out a goal to achieve a particular thing, and nobody sees that goal and objective, they might say you are overspending,
Okay.
and they might say you are underspending. If I am set out to build a tech hub agency that is going to be the first of its kind, you might not understand while I will open an office in UK. You might not understand while I will say I'm creating a department that is focused on technology. You might not understand while I will recruit some kind of creative guys that are really invested in technology. So it goes back to goals and objectives. But I don't think we should ever stop spending on technology. I don't think, because it is here. We used to say it is the future. No, it's no longer. It is here.
Technology is here. So, still talking about technology now, how are professionals in your space effectively incorporating AI into the marketing strategies, without crossing any ethical boundaries, to avoid harming the end users?
Did you hear about the story of the Princess of Wales in the news?
Recently, I'm
Yeah.
not sure I did.
Okay. So the story is about how she released the picture and it was withdrawn by top agencies, news agencies, because they felt it was adulterated or edited. Whereas she just went online to, edit the picture to make her feel good and more appreciated. Now she had to tender an apology. I use that scenario as a scenario of the AI and the likes. There is no how you want to use these things that you won't breach something.
Okay.
It goes back to who is using it. Now, if at the back of your mind, you know definitely that it is so unprofessional for you to replicate the image of the Pope and use him wearing ordinary, something you shouldn't be wearing without dressing, then why do it in the first place? Or put it out there in the first place? But does that negate the fact that AI is going to solve fantastic problems for us? No. That is why we can't be scared of using it. We should rather be personally disciplined not to do what is not right. AI is solving a lot of problems. There are a lot of things that right now we do, even as an agency, that if we had to do it, might take us 3, 4, 5 days. Not because we don't want to do it for those 3, 4, 5 days, but you could have used that 4 days to solve another fantastic problem. So why not use the AI to solve it in like 4 hours, in like 5 hours at the end of the day? Everybody's happy. And it's not even taking people's jobs to the best of my knowledge, because it still needs somebody to impute data into it. So ethically, if there's going to be a bridge, it goes back to who is using it. It's just like a knife. If you hold a knife, you can use it to cut onion. The same knife, you can use it to cut somebody's hand. So who is to be blamed? The knife or the user of the knife?
Well, I keep my answer to myself. Okay, great. So let's talk about the almighty ad spend. Now we know that in other climes,
every big topic of every year.
But the challenge we have with ad spend is that in other climes, it's quite easy to, get what the annual ad spend is or would be. But it's not the same in Nigeria. Why do you think that's the issue?
You see, I had a deep breath. Because there are a lot of factors.
I can imagine.
Leading to it. A couple of factors that, goes back to the kind of how we treat ourselves. I was watching a video online about how someone was complaining that a notable airline was offering them a bad Nigerian delicacy. And when she went to the hostess, and the same hostess and the same airline told her that it's Nigerians that are supplying us these things.
Oh, wow.
So they don't know what the best should be if the person hasn't give them what is less. It goes back to how we treat ourselves. It goes back to how the kind of respect we put in ourselves. Yeah. Because nobody will respect us if we don't respect ourselves. If we are not dealing with ourselves professionally, if we are not making it a deadly game, if there's equal playing field and is reputable enough, it will be easy for us to go outside the market and ask for our own right too. I don't know if you get what I mean. I mean, if other clients are being treated and being given some level of respect, there are some things that happen in our industry that you cannot even do in certain clients. Yeah. You can't even try it as a client to an agency. And it's not about their advertising space alone. It's a law. I can't, go into a lot of details. It's a system, a working system. And the system is being built by people. So if there is a system that is working and is being built and is being sabotaged, it goes back to people. So collectiveness, cooperation, determination to say this is who we are as a people, and we identify as a people, and we create unbiased laws that does not satisfy A and ignore B. By the time we are able to have that kind of equivocal agreement, we can, as an agency, ask for some of these things and we'll have it. There's nothing that says it's just annual spend, for crying out loud.
Okay, great. So it's just annual spend. Okay, so if you were to project, what would be your projection for for the advertising ad spend for this year?
It's tough because things are really high, right? We can go into trillions as a spend, but what is the profit margin? Right? Because things are high, I can spend $1 billion on a campaign just because what I'm executing and what I'm paying for is high. Okay. So the question is what I'm getting from it.
Is it as high as what you're putting into it?
You get what I'm saying? So, but I think how things are going will really, it's going to be in trillions. Not necessarily alone because of the profits and the gains and the investment, but also because of the high cost of things right now.
So talking about locally and going international or expanding international, how do you think marketers or creatives in the industry, agencies, how do you think they need to strike that delicate balance between thinking locally and expanding the business on the international front?
Deliberate.
Deliberate.
I think we are getting more deliberate about our
Okay.
approach to some of this um, local and global issues or solutions.
Okay.
Because if we are not deliberate, you won't get anything done.
Oh.
You won't get anything done. So the first step of it is how deliberate we've been over time. Um, Before, we used to have situations of just having to solve a problem that works with your local market, or works with just Nigeria, or work with just some countries in Africa. But now the thinking has shifted to what I'm doing. If I'm asked to replicate this in England, in New York, in Dubai, does this work effectively?
Hmm.
That goes to diversity, that goes to cultural nuances. There are similarities that we don't know about
Okay.
all these different cultures in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Uganda, in UK. There's a bit of humanly things that happen that becomes cultural, that if you replicate it in certain part of the world, it just looks. I mean, there are some places in Brazil that if you enter, you probably think you're in Nigeria.
Oh.
You understand? You be hearing fluent Yoruba.
Wow.
Yeah, if you go to certain places in UK as well, if you go to, so there is this, even the Japa syndrome. Honestly, I see the positive impact of it,
Yeah.
because we have Nigerians almost in all these great countries and other countries too. But and Nigerians are smart people.
Yes, we're
We know
smart.
how to really get things done wherever
Mhm.
we are. So I mean, I think we've been deliberate over time, and we've been conscious of replicating what we are doing locally to the global level.
Okay, great. So, still talking about the creative space. Now, would you say there is a generational gap in terms of creativity between the young professionals and the founding fathers of the industry?
Yeah, great kudos to the founding fathers.
Hmm.
Yeah, they made it. They prepared just like the word founding, the foundation for
Hmm.
us.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be here, especially someone like me. I wouldn't be here without them. You
Ah.
know, because of the great works that
Mhm.
they've done. And I mean, you can look around. Sometimes you look at, if you want to think of some really, really fantastic work, I mean, genuine fantastic work that has been done over time,
Hmm.
you have to look back to those days.
Yeah.
You see some ads now, and you ask yourself, how did we get here? You know, and this is not me trying to um, be holier than thou. In this situation, it's just our realities, and which says a lot about how professional and how disciplined and creative the new generations are, or the generations after the founding fathers or the current generations practicing. We really have to tell ourselves some big truth, and that truth is we need to check what they are laying on the foundation.
Hmm.
You know, if you cannot boast of what you're doing as being genuinely, truly creative, it's just like a sad pour on what they labor to do. In their own days, I'm not sure they were even making money. They suffered. There is no computer like we have now,
No
no
technology.
wireless internet, no
No
phones,
AI.
no AI, nothing. And maybe that was why things were really genuine and original.
Let's go all the way.
Yeah, and that goes back to our own mantra as a business and as an agency: originality. We call ourselves the originals.
Okay.
That is from our name, Ideas Origin Media. We love to pride ourselves in originality, ensure that whatsoever we do, we speak of the true nature of creativity. And that does not mean that it shouldn't be on a speedy delivery and top notch delivery. Execution is key. The thinking should be dope, and the execution should be as dope as the thinking, so that you don't have a good idea with terrible execution, you know. But in the long run, it also poses a means of showing an edge, because if you can stay true to how the fathers built the industry, built the creative space, and you are getting it, that means that you are actually going to be a lot better than
Okay.
who are those that are not paying attention to the genuine creativity. Yeah, there's a gap, but we are filling the gap.
Good to know that we're filling the gap.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about filling talent gaps and implementing actionable metrics. We know that these are, kind of challenges for some agencies. Now, how is the industry tracking this?
Um, a couple of things. Individually as an agency, you have what your metrics are and how
Okay.
you're tracking it in terms of productivity, in terms of high level of creativity. Sometimes you can call it the KPIs,
Mm,
and that is peculiar to each individual agencies and how they operate as a network, or as a solo ownership, or in a broader global space. So I think over time, for us, we've been able to have a metrics as a culture, and also approach to how we do things. Our culture does around the attitude. Our culture draws around results based instincts. Our culture draws around appearances and presentation, how you present yourself. So in terms of uh, applicable metrics, I think it goes back to setting it right
okay.
on what you want to achieve as a business. In the industry, we know what we want to achieve as a business, and that is what we used to ask ourselves questions every day, irrespective of the challenges, irrespective of what happens. We ask ourselves, are we still on track, or we have focused on something else? So as practitioners, I think the question goes back to us as a person, that in the time space of 2 years, 3 years, 4, 5 years, am I achieving what I've set out to? Or in within a year, I mean, we have what is called the quarter. We have 4 quarters in a year. It differs depending on the businesses. When you are setting out in the first quarter, you have your objectives. In your second quarter, you have your objective. So within each of those quarters, how effective has your strategy been? Strategy is very, very critical. You must know when to apply your strategy and to adjust your strategy, because it's an ever changing organization or business and environment. You know, advertising is one of those critical space where you can just never be straightforward or dogged. This is how it must be done. This is how I must do things. This is how I must talk. This is how I must. The word must be fewer in your sentences.
I agree. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about brand owners. It's not news that there's a fragment of media channels available to brand owners. Now, how can they create consistent message across all channels?
Integrated marketing, like we've said earlier on.
Okay.
Being able to integrate your marketing campaign or communication from what happens offline to online, the strategy behind it, and the use of your tools, which is now your social media and the likes,
Okay.
is very, very critical. Very, very critical. And it goes back to being always on. Mm. Gone are those days as a brand when you think you've launched that campaign is on billboard. Yeah, then you go and sit
Arrest.
down and be waiting. It is integrated. As you've launched online, offline, is on your billboard, whether it's digital or not. How are you cascading the information to the social media platforms? And guess what? Don't forget, the people online sometimes are not the same as the people
Offline.
offline. It's just that you're meeting different types of people on different platforms, or the same with different platforms. So you have to be able to really understand who you are talking to or who you want to talk to, and be deliberate about it, and ensure that they are not hearing something else offline and hearing something else
Yes,
online.
online.
And when they come, because sometimes you can build a fantastic campaign for clients, and when it's time for them to engage, the app is not working. There's nobody responding. The content is not always on. It is one this time around is one of the most demanding for you to be online as a brand, because you really have to be talking almost every time, not to be talking every time. Too much talk also can be detrimental to business growth.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to talk every time, but you should be available to talk anytime necessary, right? So it goes back to, even sometimes it's people, your target audience management that will give you the traction. How you're able to engage even in DMs with the people that want to buy, with the people you want to sell to. It has a lot to say. How can you jump on trends as fast as possible?
Possible.
Not to do what is not in line with your brand strategy or archetype, but there are some bits and here and there that when you do, it still keeps you professional as a brand. There are some trends you jump onto, and you are just shooting yourself in the leg.
Leg.
It's not everything you jump onto, but there are trends and there are things you can do with trends that still keep you as a premium brand, keep you on point, and you're still getting your relevant results.
Let's talk about Ideas Origin Media. What inspired your agency's name?
Originality, like I said, in a very cluttered and saturated environment, someone has to talk about genuine creativity. Someone has to talk about the originality of it. And like everybody who knows me, I didn't start this out of, oh, everybody's starting. Oh, everybody's doing this. By the grace of God, I had a successful career working for other businesses. And I practice in almost every part that is called running a true agency.
Wow.
So I'm not a novice to the business. And growing up in the industry, you could see, like you mentioned, a gap. Who really wants to do that original stuff with bravery and courage? It takes a lot. It takes a lot to do what we are doing. It takes a lot.
Oh, I
so,
agree.
so it's just the question of, can we bring back the originality? Can we bring back top notch? Can we bring back excellence? Can we bring that, and if we have it here and there in a couple of places, can we lay on it? Can we continue where it stopped?
Okay.
Can we collaborate with some people that are already doing it? Can we partner? Because nobody's an island. How can we make it better? So it was a rise for doing things a lot better, come making a difference entirely. So that is the inspiration.
Great. So, still talking about your agency now, how are you able to identify your unique selling proposition and leveraging it, in your marketing messages to sustain your growth trajectory?
Yeah, we've from testimonies and feedback, something has been consistent uh, over time. And if you have opportunity, you can ask some of our clients, that is the truthfulness to being deliberately doing creative works. Now, not creative works that just for the name, for the sake of being creative, also solving problems, relatable problems. Because sometimes you can get excited to do creative works and you are not addressing the problem of the client. We are always very, very holistic in our approach to solving clients' problems with relatable creative works that gives the result. And that takes us back to being original. It is a watchword. You have to be original with what you do. You have to be deliberate with what you do. And it's riding on the bedrock of quick and speedy delivery, yet top notch. You know, we pride ourselves in being able to do things faster and better, and not yet losing the excellence of it. So if anybody joins us today, a new employee, the first thing you have a first class you have at all is a class on excellence. We want you to know that we are deliberately excellent, and that is why we've been able to grow this fast as a young business, as a young agency in a very in a saturated agency with giants.
I can imagine. So tell us, what makes a great campaign, and what are some of the landmark campaigns that you have executed?
We have a couple of campaigns that we've executed. We recently did a campaign with Udabasi and with one of our brands, Jack Daniels, with so many remarkable results. We did a recent campaign on AFCON for one of our clients, and that gives one of the first kind of it in terms of engagement, in terms of reliability, in terms of carrying the people along.
Okay.
We had a recent campaign also that dwells around the culture of our people, and we also have ongoing projects, and the consistent thing about it is the trueness to creativity, is the concept origination and the storytelling of how we do our things. And like I said, we do these things in much better way, in faster ways, and again, excellence is not depreciated from it or removed at all.
Okay, so I'm guessing that's what makes a great campaign.
So, in terms of what makes a great campaign, I start from behind, which is the result.
Okay.
So, result is one of the ways to say we have a great campaign. And by the time you have a good result for a campaign, that means you have ticked the storytelling part of it.
Okay.
That means your strategy is fantastic. Your approach is great. The framework to it is sweet, is very sweet. And at the end of the day, your online integration of what you are doing offline and online is just like seamless. By the time you want to sustain, you are not struggling to connect where you stopped to where you are going to. Because sometimes your campaigns will run, and when it gets to sustenance level, you are looking at here and there that where do we continue our sustenance, And over time, when you want to lead your campaign to the next campaign, there's no pause, there's no break, it's just continuity. So all of these things are pillars. Genuine creativity, concept origination, storytelling part of it, the strategy. You don't just do a strategy that works for now and is not working for tomorrow. It has to, the brand cannot be changing their strategy every year. Strategy is big for us. Have you sorted out, do you have a strategy that creates a successful campaign and can create a successful next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Unless the brand says we want to change our path, or want to change our approach, or want to change what we are doing right now. If those are already there, then you should have a successful campaign.
All right, great. So tell us, how do you incorporate research, feedback, and analytics into your decision-making process?
Yeah, so research always leads,
Okay.
because unless you already have a robust research that has been done before, it's always good to have one that gives you a very good understanding of the market, or a very good understanding of who you want to talk to, so that you won't be talking above the TA. So research always leads. By the time you have good research, it will be easy for you, because in the research you will have feedbacks. So feedbacks is good for the brand. Feedbacks is good for creating the way forward. There's no how you have your feedback that is driven from your research that you won't have a good analysis, except your strategy or your strategist is not doing his or her job. So by ticking those two boxes, you can easily analyze the market, the brand, and create a consensus, like a middle ground, like the brand truth, the human truth, the brand truth, which is going to create your campaign messaging or communication or insight and things you need to do for them all. So also we've been able to do that seamlessly, because it's a thread. It's a thread. There's no how you do those two things, research and feedback, that analysis will not flow easily. And once that flow, a good campaign is about to happen.
Okay, guys. So as we wrap up this interview, our esteemed viewers would like to know who is Israel Obatunde.
Okay, Israel Obatunde is a young man that is trying to make a difference. You know, is a creative strategist, a businessman, and you can call him a young entrepreneur that came into the space within a short period of time as a businessman, not as a practitioner. I've been around for a while, and we've been able to do a lot of great things in the industry, and of course, there are a lot of milestones I'm looking forward to. Breaking every breakable records
Okay.
and winning every winnables, you know. So that is me basically.
Okay, so tell us what inspired you to come into the creative space?
um, I was fortunate to love art from a very, very young age.
Wow.
Yeah, so despite the fact that I studied psychology in quote, because yeah, everybody loves science class, you know. But art has always been there. Yeah, drawing, doing things, doing that. So when I had the privilege to sit in front of a system for the first time, I taught myself on everything, like spoiled my sister's laptop and like. So it is the passion to bring things to life, essentially, to tell stories, to tell every journey, you know. And in so doing with visuals, I discovered that it's not complete, something is missing. I should be able to tell my stories in writing. So I started developing myself in that line as well.
Okay.
Then I discovered that okay, you can actually have a good story with good visuals to tell. But if your strategy is not right, nobody is going to see the solution. So I went to strategy and said, oh, okay, this thing I'm trying to do, how is it relatable to the person I want to tell? I have to tell it in the way that the person will understand. And you know, that gave me the privilege to be a very all-round practitioner. You know, so it started from the passion to solve problems, to tell stories.
Okay, so what would you attribute to the growth of your success, like the growth you've amounted, growth you've achieved in the years? What would you attribute to it?
Thirst and doggedness. Yeah, I am very dogged. Yeah, you don't want to know things I've been through. Uh, but I'm this type of person that when I put my mind on something, that is it. Except God tells me, Israel, Israel, Israel. Turn the other way.
I can imagine. Okay, so fantastic. Just before I let you go, now, if there was a word of advice or a word of encouragement you have for young creatives, what would it be?
Don't stay and please lower that shoulder. Yeah, creatives get it. We have few creatives that successfully run businesses. I mean, you can ask around. Very few creative that successfully run businesses because of the shoulder parts, because of the attitude, because of nobody can know it better than me, or nobody should know it better than me. Partnership, not being able to collaborate, humility, not low self-esteem,
Humility.
humility, able to raise your head high and not being proud. Yeah. You know, so calm down. The advice is calm down. Just calm down. Learn, grow, and go through the process. Because you can never be great unless you go through the process. If you are great and you didn't go through the process, you can't retain the greatness. You can't. So if you think you are great and you've not gone through the process, go and check. Are you sure it's not fake?
I guess you're coming back down.
Exactly.
All right. It's been an absolute joy talking to you on the program.
Thank
you
you
so much for
It's
having us.
amazing to have you.
All right. And that's the much we can take on this week's episode of Marketing Edge on TV. Join us same time next week for another informative episode. I'm Bukola Omoni. Bye for now.